Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 20, 2025 infrastructure meeting. For the sake of everyone knowing who's at this table and around the room, I'd like to have an introduction. We'll start with you, Michelle.
Michelle Hofer, District 9.
David Banks, Chair, District 4.
Councilwoman Ortiz, District 3, and I'm glad to see Steve here this morning.
Okay, I also like for our city manager for an introduction, please.
Thank you, Chair. Robert Bettis, City Manager.
Okay. At the table here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Andy Feaster.
You're off now, sorry. There you go.
Andy Feaster, Principal with Development Strategies.
Yeah, Rhiannon Friedman, Planning and Development Director.
Dan Warner, Planning Division Director.
Okay. Thank you all for the introduction. I'd like to welcome those that are in the room today and also those that are viewing our infrastructure meeting. So with that, I'll call our meeting to order. We'll start with approval of the April 15, 2025 meeting of this committee.
Second.
Okay. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Second on our agenda is a presentation from about the Southeast Topeka Development Plan. Rhiannon?
Good morning. So I'll do a light introduction on this. So just to bring everybody up to speed on where we're at and how this started from an RFP that the city of Topeka put out in the summer of 2024, which ended up being awarded in late September. Since then, the awarded group has been Development Strategies. I've got Andy Feaster here with their firm. Development Strategies has worked with the planning department in the past. They helped us with our 2020 citywide housing study, which is a document that we refer to and use on a weekly, if not daily basis. So just to kind of bring you to speed on where we've been at, we've had a ton of meetings, we've done a ton of work, and a part of that was in November. I believe a few of you had the opportunity to meet with Andy while his team was in town, but held several stakeholder meetings with different individuals, residents, property owners, the school district, that fall within that South Topeka development area. So where we're at now is we've put together a presentation. I will tell you, it's long, but we're not going to go through all of it. So we're going to do some jumping around here. So if you have questions or if there's something you want us to spend more time on, just let us know. But to be respectful of everybody else's time in the room, we'll just kind of breeze through this and let you tell us where you want us to key in on.
Well, thank you for the time this morning. Like Rhiannon said, the clicker's off. We have a lot of material in here, and I'm going to go through some of it very quickly to focus kind of on the meat of the Southeast Area Development Plan. And so I will give a quick introduction about what the project is, what the plan is not, what our goals are, and what we really want to get out of today. A quick introduction of our firm, Development Strategies, is based in St. Louis. I'm in the Denver area, and we work nationally on projects like this, but really a diverse mix of real estate, community, and economic development. And we have some urban designers that help us illustrate what we're talking about very well. This is the team who worked on this project. Myself, Justin, Anu, Olivia, and Priyanka primarily. We also had PEC Engineering look at the infrastructure needs for this area, so could plan for the future in terms of what would support development. So the area we're talking about, the study area, is highlighted in the bottom right of this map. And so that's the Southeast Topeka development area. Why this plan? Part of the reasons and what was communicated in the RFP was the city wanted to take a proactive approach to development and really set the table and understand what it needs to enact in terms of policy, partnerships, and other actions to support development in the future, because there's already interest in this area. And It has an advantageous location for some reasons, and so taking a proactive approach. The city wants to support market demand. The housing study, basically concluded that Topeka needs all types of housing, but needs a more diverse housing stock to support the needs of a changing population, and also to make affordable and attainable or workforce housing more possible and viable. Promoting development that is fiscally sustainable, and we'll go through this a bit in the scenarios we looked at, and kind of, again, what framework needs to be implemented to support the development. So this plan is conceptual, so it sets the table for future development, but it does not address all of the details. And this is a large area where you'll have multiple developers over time. Some maybe in the next few years, but some in 30 years. So the development will look different. But we want to describe the key implementation actions that will be needed over time. We have development programs of what the site could support and kind of what that means in terms of future tax revenue. We really tried to balance economic and market realities with kind of aspirations for providing a different kind of housing and neighborhood environment that could attract more residents to Topeka. As we know, people continue to choose to live outside of Topeka because of what they want is not available here. I also want to be clear about what this plan does not do. It does not dictate what current property owners can and should do with their property. It does not guarantee that the development occurs exactly as we map out here. Again, it's a concept plan. And it does not force development to occur. It again sets the table and creates the partnerships and policies that do support development. So we want to make sure we understand what the project is, a little bit of the market study that we did. We're going to illustrate the development options and then kind of really talk through what all of that means. Okay. So first we looked at a lot of demographic and economic trends for Topeka, Shawnee County, a broader market area, and really thought through what those meant. You'll see here that, and as you know, Topeka's population has decreased a little bit, but we also know that the number of households has increased. So the household makeup, the number of people per household is changing, and that really changes the type of, to an extent, the type of housing product that's needed to kind of support who's living here and who wants to live here. And so we looked more closely at these trends. We highlighted a few here, and I'm going to keep going we looked a lot at the for sale housing market because housing will be the primary driver of development here. Topeka is still relatively affordable when you compare it to Lawrence, to Manhattan, to, not really Emporia, but Kansas City area. There's increasing momentum in the housing market, and especially with housing prices. And we have I'll talk about that a little bit more on the future slide. And you've really, over a long period, Topeka's had consistent deliveries and consistent development. So that enables us to kind of project to the future reasonably well. And so this graph shows those trends of housing prices over time. And Topeka was slow and steady, like a lot of places, like Wichita, where I'm from, for a long time. But in the last 5 years, home prices have increased pretty rapidly. And in a market where prices have been relatively modest, relatively attainable, this creates a shock. There's also, when we pulled the data about 6 months ago, there was a 1.4 month supply, which is considered very tight, and that helps fuel these housing price increases. 4 to 6 month supply is considered balanced by real estate professionals. We looked at kind of what new homes are selling in some of the newer subdivisions across town, just to see where that price point is and what the market is bearing, but also thinking about how do we get more workforce affordable housing and more home ownership opportunities in a future development. We also looked at the pipeline of development-ready land in existing subdivisions. Not surprisingly, the new development subdivisions are kind of, lost my word, on the periphery of Topeka, on the east, south, and southeast. And we kind of zoomed in to see what the supply is, and looked at kind of that historic building rate. And really, when we considered that, shovel-ready sites, you have about a 5 or 6 year supply of ready-to-build lots. And so that is really a point where we see that as relatively limited, because the city wants to plan for the longer term. And there's also a need for several options for builders and housing types and all of that. And a lot of these subdivisions are platted with kind of a definitive set of housing types that are allowed or acceptable there. We did also look at the multifamily market, because over time there could be an interest in multifamily on the site, although we think that's down the road. We looked at office trends, because that's usually a mix of a commercial development at kind of a prime corner. That would be 45th and Croco in this case. And we looked at retail trends, because there is a desire for more services out here, but there's going to be a challenge on the number of households today, really in this area. And over time, when this is built out, there'll be more households, and that will support kind of a neighborhood retail type of development. We did consider hospitality as well. This would be kind of a more challenging area, but maybe a couple intersections north, or some other areas in southeast Topeka, this could be definitely possible down the road. So a quick summary of the market conclusions. Office is pretty limited. We're still learning about the COVID and remote work impacts of office. Retail, we think, is moderate and will improve over time. Hospitality, again, limited, but for sale and multifamily are pretty strong in Topeka right now. And that's really reflected. You're still seeing some new multifamily proposals. And I actually sat next to the developer of project over here at dinner last night. The next thing we did is we did a physical analysis. PEC helped with this, with kind of the infrastructure piece, but really, what is the character of the site? It's always kind of interesting to do this on the edge of a community where it's mostly greenfield with some larger homestead type lots, people who've lived there for a long time, some farmland. But we really started to think and hear about connections to Shawnee Lake and the trails there. This is a unique opportunity. It's Lake Shawnee. I should remember that by now. Sorry about that. But really, there's an opportunity to connect this to the existing assets down here, the recreational opportunities at Lake Shawnee, and we'll get into that a little bit more. There's about a big key of this is preserving some open space and leveraging the existing drainage basins to have some amenities that do help market and help single-family or residential development succeed. And brighter green in this map kind of illustrates the natural area for that. And again, it connects back up to Lake Shawnee. Through our conversations, we did a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis to really hone in on what are those driving goals and aspirations and values for this development. And it was about connectivity, about parks and open space, and making those connections, really understanding service capacity and what expansion would mean for utilities, and thinking a little bit how that could be funded by the future development, but really understanding what those needs are to support what will come over the next 20, 30 years. And really thinking about different types of land uses, housing types, and density, and what that means. And so we really have two primary development options. But we really thought through kind of what's the mix, what's market supported, but also supports this vision of having a greater mix of housing types, of having more choices for current Topekans and future Topekans, and where is the best location potentially for these different uses on this site. And then we got into the economics. What's the market value? What do these cost to build? What's the potential tax revenue? So we can kind of start to make informed decisions about the future development out here and what guardrails or policies the city wants to put in place to support that. So we looked at kind of conservative planning. We call it business as usual, and that's where you might copy and paste existing subdivisions from where they are today to the land we're talking about in this site. And that would primarily be a mix of the homes you're seeing built and some duplexes attached housing that you see in this area. We also looked at what's called traditional neighborhood design. There's some examples in Kansas City. We show Denver and St. Charles, Missouri. Here, where there's a bit more density, there's kind of more planned amenities in terms of the green space. We see that these types of developments get a value premium per square foot, 15 to 25% over a business as usual. I want to say traditional. And so it's a means that has played out to support fiscal sustainability and kind of provide more, give the city a greater ability to fund over time those amenities and the infrastructure and serve these homes, which is an important consideration. This is just a collage of potential non-single family housing types that you could see in a mix in a neighborhood like this versus kind of one or two. I mean, there might be 5 or 6 models, but 1 or 2 housing types in a kind of typical subdivision that you've seen the last 20, 30 years. So it could be villas that support aging in place, a smaller downsizing option for older adults who want to stay in the community, but that option doesn't exist today. It could be a similar product as a starter home that's more affordable for kind of that first-time home buyers and kind of a typical worker in Topeka. And so we have really 4 options through here. The first one shows kind of about 50 to 60% of the site being used over time, and then there's a 1A. 1B shows the whole site being built out, which again we think is 25, 30 years down the road. But this, we have the detail on what the unit mix would be. If you look at the bigger screen, you can see it. But 1A with the conservative planning scenario, subdivisions that you see today, 1,250 units over time, worth nearly $500,000. And we'll have a comparison of the fiscal numbers at the end of this that'll be kind of easier to digest. If we build out the whole site with a similar density and similar housing types, that's about $780 million of development in today's dollars, about 2,000 homes. If we kind of create the policy and vision to support traditional neighborhood design, that now 2A, in the T&D scenario, you can get 2,000 units in kind of the smaller land use, using less land with this approach and higher values and revenue. And if we build the whole site out as traditional neighborhood design, that would be over 3,000 units supported here of a greater diversity of housing types. And just another key option you can see in all of these, and I can never use the laser on a TV, which is disappointing. But the green space network throughout, this would have trails where kind of recommending more natural trails, so the ongoing maintenance is less than a lot of like concrete paved. So there's a real opportunity to leverage the natural slopes and drainage basin to enable that to be developed over time, which will connect with Lake Shawnee and create an amenity that's not just for residents, but for the whole community and also visitors. And so to compare these scenarios, we have the total market value between 1A and 1B and 2A and 2B. And I just want to note the value per acre and average property tax revenue, and that's to all taxing jurisdictions, not just the city of Topeka, but what the residents would pay each year, is 30 to 40% higher in the traditional neighborhood design. And that's why it's kind of the preferred development type that we're recommending, because it is more fiscally sustainable over time. And one thing we're going to have in the final report that's not here is a comparison of the cost of providing services to a household versus the revenue it will create. And we think that traditional neighborhood design will be revenue positive, which will help support funding these amenities, maintaining the infrastructure, et cetera. And so I kind of talked through this, why the T&D is preferable. I did want to pause here, having gone through a lot, to see if there's any reactions or questions so far.
Any questions from the committee? Councilwoman?
So I'm looking at southeast, the southeast area. And as I think about it, Rockfire has kind of really developed. I mean, it is just sparred off. Let's come and just follow me north. So then I look out by 29th and Croco area. I don't know what that is, but Aquarian Acres is out there. That's David's district, that's why. So that's kind of really sparked up and flared out. And I'm thinking all the way to the city limits, Tecumseh area. That's kind of, at one time it kind of sparked. So if you go to I-70 down Croco, that area has kind of been just kind of at a standstill. This is just me, my opinion. As I go across I-70 and I continue on, the only new development we have is Eastgate, which is a town, looks like a brand new little town over there, and it's awesome. But as I look at that to the north, to the river, there's just a standstill. There's a lot of area, but it's just a standstill, and I just want to know why. I know probably in 2007, I've only been on here for a few years, but in 2007, I know that the Chambers did this great big, and I've always asked for it, I've never been able to get it, but they did this great big report, and it showed that the reason why nobody wants to build over there, and I say this all the time, East 6th Street is a gateway to Topeka, because they come in from Lawrence, and they come right down 6th Street all the way in. And that area has just really kind of stood still, other than research that has been built out there. We've got a few houses out there that have been out there for years. And when the Greater Topeka did this report, they talked about, because of the utilities, there's no utilities that go that far. But what can we do to get new residents in there? Because that's a great, great area. If I had money to build, I'm going to build east. I'm not going west with everybody else. I'm going to build east. I like that area. But what is the problem that we can't get anybody there? When I look at 6th and Rice, 6th and Croco, there's a lot of land right there. And there's a few houses there.
Yeah, so let me take a stab at answering that. I think this is probably not going to answer the question that you're looking for, but I think it will tell you why we're focused on this area. So the primary reason is because there are a small handful of property owners that own a majority of the land. So I think that's probably part of the problem, right? It could be utilities. It could be that various people own different parcels of land that are just sitting on them or aren't willing to get out of the way for development to happen. But we saw an opportunity here to engage with these property owners that have, several hundred acres, to be able to bring them along for it. And the understanding being that if the city helps you and we create a path forward that says, hey, if you're in agreement with this and you follow these policies and these guidelines, we can make development really easy and everybody can win. So I think that's why we focused on this area, but it could be as simple as, property ownership that's not willing to, cooperate. But I don't know. I can look specifically into certain
And I
areas.
appreciate any answer,
Yeah.
Brianna, because this is what my constituents say. We're always building over here. We're always building over here. And I know even the builder that's in Eastgate, he wants to meet with David because he's got some property that he wants to build. And I'm not jealous of David's area. I'm not at all. But I think it's great that we're building on this side of town, But I just need to answer that for my constituents because, when they see building going up, they don't see that somebody's sitting on property. They don't see that the utilities are not there. And when they did that report, they talked about North Topeka and how North Topeka, that's why North Topeka wasn't growing. But then we had people that started development that started moving and laying those utilities to make it easier on the next person and the next person. So that even got a little sparred off. So I just want to be able to make sure that I get a clear understanding, which I do, of why, because that's why you hear, and you've heard it time and time, we don't do anything with East Topeka, And that's not East Topeka, that's Southeast Topeka. And so I think it's a great thing when I point that out to them, but I also want to be able to let them know what we're looking at, what we're trying to do, whether it's business-wise or whether it's building. That is one thing, and I am glad. I will say this before I close. I am glad because I'm seeing more younger people that they want townhomes. They don't want the yards and all of that, those amenities. They want townhomes that they're too busy right now. Don't ask me what they're doing, but they're too busy. I like my yard. I love my yard, but I grew up maintaining the yard. That's what we did as a family, and I don't know if some of those are just, like I said, they don't like that anymore. And I do feel like some of the elders, they want those duplexes, or they want with, those amenities with, that are free, that they don't have to worry about their yard and upkeep and all of that. So I'm glad that you're looking at that.
Thank you.
And they don't want to be in a nursing home. They want to be, they want to be out, so anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything from you, Councilwoman? Over.
There's a lot of things I'm thinking about. One being Rockfire came before the Planning Commission when I was chair, and that had to have been about 2008, 2009. So that's been a long time ago, and it was moving slow at first. I haven't been out to look and see. I know there's a lot of people south of 45th that have rather large lots with their large homes. Those grounds will never change and for a long time. So there's limits there. I would like to see more in East Topeka, but there's some people there that also own large lots, and they don't want anybody moving in too close. They want their space, and that's going to hamper us in any situation. But one thing I was thinking about with this, it's been a while since I've been out that way. I need to drive. I don't know that we have much for medical on that side. I think there's probably some kind of a Cotton O'Neill office, but there's not anything like there is out near 29th and Urish. I mean, there's several offices out in that direction. And people want to be near where they can get to their doctor. They're going to want to be near a grocery store. And at one time, we tried to get a Hy-Vee in at 45th in California, and that didn't float. But you would need a grocery store somewhere in that area. At 29th, and people want to be close. They don't want to be at 29th in California. They want to be at 45th and Croco. They want to be really close so they don't have to go far. So that's an issue too. And that may be part of what's slowing it down. And it's not slowing it down for somebody who might want to work at Panasonic and drive back and forth. They're going to go where they want to go. But we've got the schools, but we're missing a few key points out there that we really, if we want it to grow out there, we really need to look at those two. That's
Yeah,
probably good enough.
I think that makes perfect sense. I think that's why if we're able to be supportive of this traditional neighborhood design and really show that the city's intent is to create more density in this area, then we'll have far more luck attracting those type of amenities. Because right now, while it does seem far, I think the 29th and California grocery stores are about 3.3 miles away from the site. So it's not that far in a grocer's mind. So they're still capturing the same audience. So we have to find a way to get more density of population if we want to be able to attract those amenities. But I think this is a step in that direction.
And I'm not sure if the Turnpike interchange, if they'd ever get it in at California and, what about 33rd?
I think it's going to be in that area.
But that might help too.
And to that point, Mr. Chair, if I may, council member,
Go ahead.
that is also in our CIP for future discussions, and that would definitely be a variable that would play into the development in this area of town as well. So just want to make sure that, thank you for highlighting that.
And I don't care if it's 3.3 miles. There are people who want to be 5 minutes from their grocery store no matter what, or they want to be able to walk to it. I mean, we're spoiled in a lot of locations in town, and people just do not want to drive.
If I may respond to
Councilwoman.
that. When Falley's closed down at
Oh, yeah.
at 6 and Mill Creek, they did a study. Just that store alone covered Barrington, Tecumseh, North Topeka, Oakland, East Topeka. You know, people that worked for the state, what they would do is get their groceries on their way home. And that's kind of what they're still doing. Yeah. So there's a lot of area out there, people that, sometimes I drive to Lawrence because my drive is kind of like 20 minutes there, 20 minutes here. It depends on how I feel. If I don't want to bump into anybody, I go to Lawrence, you know, shop there, take my
Sales
money.
tax is 0.05% cheaper.
You're right. Oh, I wasn't gonna say that.
Anything else, Michelle?
Nope.
Thank you. My thoughts are that we have worked really, really hard to get attention in Southeast Topeka, and this is a promising project that, man, I got really excited about it, and I often wondered, because when we brought up the subject of development in Southeast Topeka, there's not enough foot traffic, there's not enough money flowing. But I think when we start to take a look at things the way they are right now, a development like this brings us closer to the development of California Crossing, is how I feel. And I'm pretty excited about where we're going. So go ahead, Andy, if you got anything else.
I think I'm being asked to wrap up because you have 4 other agenda items.
Okay.
So in doing so, what's in the report is kind of a framework to move forward that considers how do we support the different housing types? How do we make sure the open space is sustainable? We talked a lot with utilities and public works about infrastructure needs and planning for that. There's going to be a lot of need for partnerships, working with the county, the school district, the rural water district, and all of those things to set the table, but that's going to be covered in detail in the report. And we do have some information on the future slides, but I will
Sorry,
cede my
Andy.
time.
Yeah, as I promised, there's a ton of work that's gone into this, and like everything Development Strategies does, it's been completely detailed, which is great. So there will be a report that'll be coming, and I'll make sure that everybody has access to that when it's fully published. But until then, we'll be at the Planning Commission at some point in time, likely doing an overview as well. So I'll just make sure that everybody stays informed so you can engage as you would like to as we continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Rhiannon, Dan. We are on the agenda for, we're at action item number 4, action item A.
Which one's listed as A? Is that the levee project, right? I just want to go, it is, okay, good. Just want to make sure I'm in the right order. All right, good morning. Utilities, thank you, Dan. Utilities is requesting approval of the Soldier Creek Levee Raise project, which is a project that was approved in a previous CIP, but is now ready for construction and over $250,000. This project raises the Soldier Creek levee between Northwest Minokan Road and Highway 75 by about 6 inches. This levee is actually owned by the North Topeka Drainage District, but its certification with the Corps of Engineers is required so that the city can get its, right now we're currently provisionally certified on the city's North Topeka levee unit, and the Corps treats the North Topeka levee unit and the Soldier levee unit as sister units. So we have always worked with the North Topeka Drainage District, and we continue to do so. As such, this project is a 50-50 funding split with the North Topeka Drainage District. So this is the first of 2 projects that we need to complete to get that certification for the Soldier Creek levee unit. As the documentation shows, we are requesting, this is a cash-funded project, requesting $450,000 to perform the work. Once we get that completed, we will get reimbursed for half of that by the North Topeka Drainage District. With that, I will stand for questions.
Okay. Any questions for Director Davis?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Motion by Councilwoman Ortiz, seconded by Councilwoman Halford. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Action item B.
Next is a little unique. So as you know from our last presentation in front of the governing body on our CIP, we do have utilities utilizes a fleet replacement program in each of its utilities. And as such, while this is not a construction project, the piece of equipment we are seeking approval for today is a large piece of equipment that exceeds $250,000. So we plan on coming before the committee and governing body for approval. Today, we are looking for approval to purchase a large sewer cleaning machine. We traditionally purchase one of these annually, and we trade in one of our older models to help get a huge cost reduction on these very expensive pieces of equipment. This year is a little different. We did not get offers that are comparable to what we have seen in the past, so we think we will see a much greater return through surplusing that ourselves instead of working with our vendor, which is why you see a request for a heftier sum than we would normally be spending on this. So the utilities is asking for approval to spend just over $551,000 from our wastewater utility on a new sewer cleaning machine. I do want to say that we traditionally turn these over, replace them every 5 to 6 years so that they are in good working condition, and that is what has allowed us to get the return on investment, the return for trade-in value that we traditionally have seen. With that, I will stand for questions.
Any questions for Director Davis? Councilwoman?
Sylvia, so is this in line with the 5-year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Prior to the last change, we were still working with funds from previous CIP years, so we did not come in front of this body for approval. It would just go through our normal process. But now, since we're working through some of the changes in ordinance that were in effect in 2024, we're coming in front of you for authorization of this.
Okay, and with that, I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion has been made by Councilwoman Ortiz and seconded by Councilwoman Halford. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Action item C. Hi, Steve.
Good morning. Steve Groen, Public Works Director. Public Works has two items for the committee that'll come up next. First one is capital improvement project exceeding $250,000 for the Westwood Neighborhood Mill and Overlay Project. It's project number 841097.17. This is a mill and overlay with some full depth patching and curb and gutter replacements. This will occur on Southwest Arnold from Southwest 17th to Southwest 19th Street, and also on Southwest 19th Street from Southwest Arnold to Southwest Pembroke, and then again from Southwest Oakley to Southwest High Avenue. Project will be just under $370,000 funded with the half-cent citywide sales tax. And Public Works looking for your approval, and upon approval from the committee, we'll take it to the governing board, and then if they concur and approve as well, we will get the project out for bids for construction this year.
Questions for Steve? Steve, how much was it going to cost for this project?
$369,600.
On my paper, I have 250,000.
It's because it's exceeding $250,000.
All right. Councilwoman Holfer, you have any question?
Does it need any full depth patching, or is it just strictly mill and overlay?
There'll be areas of full depth patching as needed.
And it's going to be done, if everything lines up, late summer, fall?
Yeah, if we can get it out for bids here after the first meeting in June with the governing body and get that approved. It takes about 6 weeks after that to get it bid and awarded. So hopefully it'd be later this summer.
The only thing I'd caution is trying to get it, at least the east end of it, done before we get too close to Washburn starting up again.
Correct.
Any other comments or questions?
Go ahead.
Councilwoman?
Well, I've seen the county, we're having problems getting contractors. Is that going to be a problem for us?
Ma'am, hopefully not. So far we've had at least one bidder on all our projects this year, so.
Okay. All right. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion has been made.
Second.
And motion made by Councilwoman Ortiz, seconded by Councilwoman Holfer. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Action item D.
Yep, our second project is also for a CIP project exceeding $250,000. This project is in the Central Highland Park neighborhood. Phase 1 project, there's 3 project numbers because we are doing roads, some storm water and water. The project's going to include pavement reconstruction on Southeast 17th Street from Hudson Boulevard to Chandler Street, and then on Southeast 19th Street from Adams to Indiana Avenue, including concrete panel replacement on the 1900 block of Indiana Avenue. There'll be a reinforced concrete box replaced, which will be funded under the Stormwater Conveyance System Rehabilitation Program, and some water main relocation funded by the Water Main Replacement Program. The project will be funded with just over $1.5 million in citywide half-cent sales tax, $322,000 in stormwater revenue bonds and operating funds, and $26,300 in water revenue bonds in operating funds. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Chris Bruns, who will be our project engineer on this project. Chris is a new engineer with the city of Topeka who joined us late April from the Federal Highway Administration, and this will be Chris's project for us.
Thank you, Steve, and welcome, Chris.
This project would be constructed later this year.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman.
Okay, Steve, this is in my district here. I know there's a little area right there with Indiana and Hudson that there's only one way in and one way out. Does that, I'm trying to look at the map here. Does that include that? Or how will we handle that? Just do half a road to get them in and out, or?
Yeah, there would always be access maintained for the residents. Typically, you do one lane at a time when you have only the one way in.
I mean, it's already narrow in there.
Correct.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So I would like to be notified before this, when it goes out to RFP, so either me and David, we share that NIA, that we can let the people know that this is coming down the pipe
Yeah.
verbally, and then kind of keep them abreast on what's going on, so they will know how to prepare for that, because I can just see me getting a lot of calls.
Yes, we can have a neighborhood meeting prior to the start of this
Okay,
project.
so we will?
Yes.
That's awesome. And I wonder if we want to have a neighborhood meeting or just intertwine it with the NIA.
Yeah, depending on the schedules of the NIA meetings, we could coordinate with one of their meetings.
They meet the second Monday of every month
Okay.
at 6:30.
Yeah, we can work with that.
I think that might even be better, because those are your backbone of that,
Right.
of that area. Okay, sounds good. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second this.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
What is a school, or the buildings there by 20th and Indiana, right in there?
It used to be an elementary school, now it's a daycare.
Is that Patterson Daycare?
No.
No?
That is, you said 20th in Indiana?
Yeah, you just go down from 19th, those,
It used to be Antioch Life Center, and then now it's with the disabilities. I can't think of the name of it. Is it Tilrat?
I'm not sure what's the name of it.
They're in there, and then you also have it at 19th. You've got Washburn Tech, East is there on
20th in Indiana.
Washington, 20th and Washington. But the,
Your mic.
no, sorry.
well, I'm just thinking in terms of who we need to notify, because,
Well, they have it out on
They have
21st,
easy out.
and then the out on Indiana, so they have two outs there.
okay.
But the school is a one-way
Yep.
there. That's right behind the, I think it's
On the map, Councilmember, it says, above all, books and gifts. If that's the right building, just north of 20th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want anybody to get surprised.
That's why they should come to the NIA meeting.
They should.
And typically, we notify all the
Yeah,
businesses.
we notify everybody in the
Yeah,
area before
everybody.
starting the projects.
Okay. Motion has been made. Seconded.
Seconded.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Steve. Other items, I don't see anything on my list to discuss. We recently added to this list the opportunity for public comment. So if there is anyone, okay. With that, if there's nothing else from this committee or any of the presenters, we'll adjourn this meeting. The next meeting is June the 17th, 2025, same place. Thank you all.